pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You want to say it, Mark? Go ahead.
If you please bow your heads. Most holy and heavenly Father, we come before you asking for your blessing. A blessing upon all those that are here this evening that are giving up of their time for the betterment of Fort Scott and Bourbon County. Oh Lord, we thank you for all the commitment for all of our employees who work here diligently to make this community a better place. Please watch over and guide our police, our sheriffs, our firefighters, our paramedics, and our EMTs. And Lord Jesus, please watch over and guide all of our military personnel who are throughout this world. We ask all these blessings in your name, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the approval consent agenda.
I make a motion. I think that's, yep, there's Clifton. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second that motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Hello, Clifton. We are at public comments. Let me sign these minutes here. There you go, sir. Go ahead. Yeah, we got plenty. Okay, let me do this. Okay. Public comment, you want to go to that next, Clifton? Okay.
Oh, I get, did we approve the minutes?
Yeah,
We did.
We did.
Yes.
Pub-
Public comment, Michael.
All right, the floor recognizes Michael Hoyt. Public comment.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have put together a supply of the handbooks that Commissioner Beth copied there for everyone, but there's also a supply out here in the hallway. So anyone here, if you'd like one of these, I have this many available. But I would like to read for you the two sentences that Commissioner Beth read one of them to us that says, no, coma only applies to a public body, and it does not, and this is on page 2 actually, no, the coma does not require that the public be allowed to speak. But then you left me in the back holding my hand up when I wanted to read to you the next sentence that says, some other laws may require a public hearing with the opportunity to speak on that issue, but the coma does not. So to say coma doesn't allow public comments, when you put public comments on the agenda, the law provides for it. Also, in your consideration of your budget, here's a work product that's been put together on monies dispersed to Bourbon County Ready that I think you should consider during your budget work session. And if we want to make other copies, I'm reading the room and handing it out, but I didn't make that many copies.
Is this your handwriting?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else public comment? That it?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't know he was done.
Okay, I didn't either.
Clint Walker.
Clint Walker.
You want me to talk some more?
Hello, Mr. Walker.
Mr. Commissioners, thank you. The only comments I wanted to make is I did take it, read through, the drug and alcohol policy, your analysis. And the only comments I'm going to make on this is when a person does a urinalysis, it's only as good as the integrity of the chain of command on the urinalysis. Second thing, I don't think that any of you all commissioners would have a problem setting the example and doing a urinalysis for yourself. That's what I'm saying. And thirdly, I ran a program, and I know it was in the Army, and no one was exempt. Didn't matter who it was. It didn't matter what company it was, if you was military, police, or anybody else. No one was exempt from that. You know, even me, when I ran the program, wasn't exempt. They called me. They didn't call me. They called the first sergeant and said, hey, you got to go give a specimen. And I would think that no matter where you are elected official, that if you're enforcing something, you want to set the example for the rest of the community. I'm just saying it. Doesn't matter what position you hold. And with that being said, we don't single out departments. You know, everybody, in my opinion, unless you got something to be afraid of, should participate. And then if they don't want to participate, I think they need to come back and say, I want to take in writing, opt out to the county. I don't want to do it. And I will submit to the county, they don't have to, my policy. Maybe their policy is a little more stricter. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Anyone else but?
Nope.
Okay. I close the public comment section. Public Works update. I seen him in the building somewhere. You don't need nobody in the crowd, do you? Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Eric.
Good evening. Get that on. Make this pretty quick on my part. Asphalt, Kansas Road from the city limits to 227th is complete. Got that done before school opened up last week. And then Jayhawk from US 69 to the railroad tracks, completed that yesterday.
Got a lot of calls on that today. Thank you.
Yep.
All positive.
You know, those guys went above and beyond
It was hot yesterday.
all 14 of them. It was hot. Plant went down on us, lost the compressor, lost the bearing on the main drum. But you know what? They fought through it, figured out a way to make it happen so we could get the job done. So I want to give kudos to them. They've done an outstanding
Share
job
with
on
them
it.
that we say thank you. I say thank you.
Yeah, and it was super hot.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's done, and went ahead and done it on a Sunday, so that way we didn't interfere with the school and the businesses, and traffic was a little bit lighter. So that's done. We will be starting our chip and seal program next Monday. The oil and everything, spoke to them today. It will be here. We'll have a tanker of oil Monday. We'll start at the north end up on 215th around the Lynn County line, and then we'll work our way south down 215.
Good.
So see how that goes. It's going to be a new process for us, but we will see how it goes.
In just a few weeks, you'll be doing 2 tankers a day.
Yeah, that's what I hope.
Really will.
Yeah, so, but anyhow, I want to give you a heads up on that. We'll get a public notice out, so that way people know what to expect and where we're at, and go from there. Mowing, still going with 3 mowers. Got parts in late Friday, so we're trying to get our 4th mower up and going. Since we get it all put back together, we will be going with it. Let you know they're drilling at Thomas Quarry this week, and then we will blast next, and
Good.
then we'll start crushing there. So
Good.
that's where we're at or with that. Other than that, our one Mack truck that is wrecked is now going to Mack in Joplin. So we will get it down there this week and move forward so we can get another truck in the fleet. And then we got another Mack truck at Inland right now with rear issues. Not quite for sure exactly what we have going on, whether it's the rear end, the axle, or what's going on for sure. But I hope to have it back right away. Seems to always hit us when we're asphalting and trying to really need them. So, but anyhow,
Well, they break when you use them.
yep,
So,
we will make do with it and move on.
and I understand. I'm just shocked they're going to try to fix that truck. That thing is, but they're
We'll
big
see.
boys. They know what they're doing. So.
Yep.
Make sure it's right when it comes
Yep.
back. This area,
Yeah.
you might need this. I don't need that.
Okay. Actually, yeah, I'll
You
throw
probably
away.
get one,
We
maybe.
get one of those. So, do you have anything for me that I need to?
No, thank you for the asphalt, so.
It's not, I know it's not a county road, but maybe you've been in contact with somebody. People have been asking me about South Main Street right in front of Verizon, why we've got that coned off. I know there was like a water break, something
that's,
there. And
That's a city's.
is
they
it
had a
city
water-
or KDOT that is still got?
the city had a water main break,
Mm-hmm.
and when the water main broke, and this is my understanding, nothing factual here, but from what I understand, they had I want to say it's like a 12-inch main. When that broke, the dirt and what have you that was washed out went out into the road a little bit out there.
Mm-hmm.
So now they are waiting. They took bids, is my understanding, for a contractor to come in and fix it per KDOT specs. So there's going to be a private contractor, I believe, come in and do that, is my understanding. So
I just didn't know why because right now it doesn't look like it's impassable other than the cones.
it's a pretty good bump there. I'm afraid if you hit
Okay.
that at 30 mile an hour,
Okay.
you might lose control. Somebody
Gotcha.
could easily. It's a pretty good bump. If you weren't expecting it, and
Okay.
you hit that, it might make you who knows what.
Yep.
So I think it's a liability issue would be my guess, and that's only a guess.
Cool.
And I am in no way speaking on behalf for
Yeah.
the city in any way, shape, or form. That's just my understanding. So, anything else?
Not for me. Thank you, Eric.
All right.
Thank you. Okay. Resolution 1423, appointing an emergency management person. Mr. Brian Allen, have a seat.
Thank you, sir. Essentially, what this is, of course, the state requires us to have an emergency manager. And there's a grant that we apply for that pays part of the salary and different things that we do. And one of our regional reps came up and was helping me with this grant, and he says and he was telling me the different things we'd need, and he goes, and I'll need a copy of the resolution that names you emergency manager. And I'm like, no, I don't believe we've done that. So it's just a requirement the state has us do. Did the same thing when Will came on. In fact, we used the same resolution. We just changed the dates and put my name there instead of Will's. So that's essentially, it's just procedure.
I understand.
But while we're here, I'll let you also know that we did an exercise a couple of weeks ago out at the wind farm between the employees out there and their company and our emergency responders, and it went really, really well.
That's great.
So just so people know that we are actually out here doing things.
Yeah.
So, and then I have September, I will be gone a lot. Training. Yes, sir.
Good.
So,
Yeah, I know there was a few people that put some wonderful things on the internet that weren't true. Well, anyway, we get that a lot. But anyway, this says the exact same thing as the counties I looked at, other than replace Bourbon with their county and Bryan with their person.
So people on Facebook commented on this.
Oh yeah, what are they doing? It's terrible, blah blah blah, whatever. So I make a motion to pass. Did you want to read it?
I already read it. It was
Okay.
emailed to us.
It was emailed to us, yeah.
So make a motion to pass resolution 14-23, appointing emergency manager for Bourbon County, Kansas, which is Brian Allen.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
you guys have anything else for me while I'm here?
Nope. Good luck on the training. I've been through some of it. It's not easy.
It's not, but we'll get there.
Yeah, you'll make it. You'll do fine. Okay, appointment of Drywood Township Treasurer.
Appointment of Drywood Township Treasurer Lynn Hoyt resigned, and the Drywood Township Board recommends Patty Simpson as her replacement. So we just need a motion to appoint her.
Yeah, I'm okay. That's what they want. So.
Make a motion to appoint Patty Simpson as the Drywood?
Yes.
Yep, Drywood Township Treasurer.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Thank you. Bourbon County Conservation District. Who's the guest speaker? I see a lot of you out there.
Oh, I brought a few friends.
Good.
Safety in numbers.
That's right. Hi, gentlemen. I'm gonna get that out of my way.
Make sure the red light's on, please.
Red light is on.
Okay.
Okay. We've done this once. I talked to you gentlemen. I felt like we maybe needed to take a second stab at it. So we're gonna make that first one was a practice run. We're gonna do this one more time. Yeah, I'm Jared Pollock, chairman of the Soil Conservation Board, and I've got Ronnie and I've got Ken in the back there, and I've got Mandy and Deb, supervisors, and our office manager, Mandy. We're going to try to keep this short. I just want to touch on a few things that I didn't feel like we did a very good job with. Like I say, we also brought a few of our concerned friends and a couple of guys to talk to you from the state, and we'll get started. So one thing, I talked to Nelson about it the other day. It's been a couple days ago. In the minutes from, I believe it was July 10th, it had that we were requesting a $10,000 increase. That is not what we requested. We requested a $3,000 increase, and I asked him if we could get that corrected in your guys' minutes. He said to just make sure and say that before we got anything going. So, yes, our budget from last year was $40,000, and we are requesting a $3,000 increase. I believe it's all in the original paperwork that Mandy had that we can get for you if you need be. Strictly from the financials of things, the Conservation District this year has brought in, originally your papers that we handed you was $21,000 from State Water Resource, state funds that go to producers, along with $9,400 from non-point source dollars to go to producers. Since we last talked, Mandy has she's snagged up another $33,000 to get to Bourbon County producers. So those figures right there total out to $64,500. And there's been some talk that if we are not funded, we do not get any state cost share dollar, or we do not get any state funding. We are matched from your funding from the state. So we are not guaranteed any money from the state. And I've got some guys that are going to give you a little rundown on that. But there are some federal dollars in this county that are just shy, if you add our figures in, of just shy of $600,000 that go directly in the pockets of Bourbon County producers. And without a soil conservation district, we may create an interruption in services to our Bourbon County residents. That was just one thing I wanted to drive home. So from a financial standpoint, your return on investment looks pretty good there. So one of the other things I wanted to touch base on, there are 3,143 counties in the United States. I don't have an exact number, but approximately there are 3,000 soil conservation districts. So I would venture a safe guess to say that the counties without are covered in concrete. That would be a safe guess. And I pulled this off of an old book from the old days, but it seemed relevant. Soil conservation is like paying a premium on an insurance policy. It provides us food and fiber, and it also provides us a strong tax base. It's an insurance policy to the future. That is all I have for you. I am going to kick it to my friend Ronnie Brown real quick, and he will kick it down the line. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Thank you all. I just wanted to talk about the Kansas water plant a little bit. The funding that comes into the county is all through that. It's not tax money, it's a check off. And, well, I take that back. There is some tax money in it, but most of it comes from check off of fertilizer, pesticides, quarries. And a big one is the Rural Water District, and the city of Fort Scott pays a water tax every month. So we might stand to lose, well, we would lose that if we don't exist. And the water plant, I've been on the Maritime Basin Advisory Committee almost since it started back in the 80s. And we fought to get funding for that thing all that time. We couldn't get it from the general fund. We were supposed to have got it in the beginning. That's the way that read. And we never did get it. Well, they finally realized in Congress in Topeka that water is very serious in Kansas right now, and especially western Kansas losing their water table, that they funded the Kansas water plan at double. Is that not right, Andy? That they've doubled it. We stand to get a lot of that in Bourbon County if we're still here. So I just wanted to mention that. And the water plan is a very good idea. The way it stated it when it was designed, that all the money would be spent for conservation projects. And that has not necessarily happened. As you know how the government works. Well, I don't want to knock you guys down, but it's not all went that direction. And I think they realize now the seriousness of the water needs in Kansas. And we have, I know Western Kansas, like I mentioned, has the water level problem. And we got an equal problem of siltation and runoff in Bourbon County, eastern Kansas. It costs several $100,000 an acre to dredge those things or to clean them out. And we don't want to lose that. And I want to add to that. And this drought season we have going on now, if it wasn't for Cedar Creek out here, we would be in trouble. And I existed at the time we built that, so I'm proud of that. But that's all I got to say, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. Next, Andy.
Hi, I'm Mandy Shoemaker, as you know, the district manager. My part in this is I'm going to cover the involvement we have in the community, the county, and the city. We have a soil technician in our office, which we've told you guys before, that works with the county road and bridge crew to provide the drainage acres and their assessments of the bridge and tube replacements in the county. So they put in the correct sizes. The district hosts approximately 200 fourth grade students in Bourbon County for our Conservation Day at Gun Park. Students and teachers rotate through 10 stations, learning about soil erosion, soil layers, water quality, wildlife, forestry, grassland, and pollution. We also have a booth at the Bourbon County Fair every year. Most of the time our booth has to deal with pollinators and urban conservation due to, there's a lot of city folks, you know, from the towns that come in to see us. We also sponsor a $50 first place and a $25 second place prize for the 4-H booth that promotes conservation. The district sponsors a team of 4 high school students from both Uniontown and 4 from Fort Scott to participate in the regional and state envirothons, along with the regional and state speech contests. The district works with the NRCS staff and other agencies like the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks, the Farm Service Agency, and the Forest Service to implement conservation practices. A local work group is held each year for local landowners to address concerns with water quality, soil erosion, and other resource concerns. The district hosts a farmer-to-farmer coffee shop talk each quarter with local farmers and ranchers to discuss and share ideas on current issues and problems. The last couple of ones we've been talking about cover crops and the benefits and challenges of that. The district participates in the KOMB-FM Home Sport Farm and Garden Show each year. The district is a member of the Fort Scott Chamber of Commerce, and we host a chamber coffee once each year to coincide with our Conservation Day at Gun Park and Earth Day, which is April 22nd. Every year, the Conservation District continues to support and promote conservation by paying dues to the National Association of Conservation Districts, the Kansas Association of Conservation Districts, the KACD, I'm going to use that for an abbreviation, Employees Organization, the Kansas Association of Conservation Districts Auxiliary, the Kansas Association for Conservation and Environmental Education, the KACD Youth and Education Committee, and the Kansas Rural Center. We make donations to the Fort Scott FFA chapter every year with their help at Conservation Day and every other year at our annual meeting. And on that opposite year, Uniontown FFA helps, and we also give them a donation for coming to assist us. There's many meetings that the supervisors and myself attend every year to keep up with and be informed of new policies, new ways to promote and implement conservation. Kids these days think their milk comes from Walmart and not a real live cow. Some of them think their hamburgers come from the grocery store, McDonald's. They need to know about the agriculture way of life and the steps that need to be taken to maintain our food, clean water sources, and also the economic benefits of agriculture. Without it, our world would be in pretty serious, dire straits. Thank you for continuing to support the Bourbon County Conservation District and our mission of protecting what we have today to have something left for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
and next up is Mr. Daryl Donahue.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Daryl Donahue, and I'm from Fredonia, Kansas, over in Wilson County. I sit there on the Wilson County Conservation District Board, where I currently serve as treasurer. I also represent Area 5 for the Kansas Association of Conservation Districts, which encompasses the 20 southeast counties in the state of Kansas. This position was formerly held by Ronnie Brown. Why is there a conservation district in Bourbon County? Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on that. With the formation of the Soil Conservation Service in 1936, conservation districts were formed in each county and parish in the then United States. And to clarify your number of counties versus number of districts, at least in West Virginia, 3 counties or more comprise a district. So there is a conservation district presence in every county in the United States, Alaska, Hawaii, and the territories. I currently serve on an invasive species committee with the National Association, and I work with a lady from Hawaii and a gentleman from Guam. So we're leading the pack on the rest of the world here. A gentleman named Hugh Hammond Bennett is the reason there is a conservation district here in Bourbon County. He's known as the father of soil conservation. He began his career when Theodore Roosevelt was president. At that time, anything to do with soils was done through the U.S. Department of Interior. Then it became the Soil Erosion Service. Well, that didn't exactly sound the greatest, but Bennett was a soil scientist at heart, and he even traced back the origins of a draw by the drip off the eave of a barn. When the Dust Bowl hits in the 1930s, we're hit in the face with all this dirt that is flying all around the country. And he actually timed it where he was on the floor of Congress asking for money to start the Soil Conservation Service when the sun was blotted out by red Oklahoma dirt. And he goes, "Gentlemen, there's Oklahoma." And he got it. Bennett said, and please remember this, soil has no politics. We are bipartisan. I attended a class in Washington, D.C., and the thing that I garnered there is both sides of the aisle understand conservation. They want to work together because it's easy for them, it's pretty direct, you're getting the truth, because that's where we stand, is with the truth, and then they can go back hammering tongs at each other on everything else. Another thing in today's world is the term producer. A producer is anyone who raises food or raw material for agricultural purposes to help feed and clothe the world. We hear the term urban ag thrown out. Well, a producer is no longer the guy wearing overalls riding the tractor. A producer can be anyone in this room. If you're raising a truck garden, or if you're raising chili peppers in a 5-gallon bucket on a vacant lot and selling the peppers to local restaurants as a niche market, you are a bona fide farmer now. And we serve everyone. To be able to come in the door of the conservation office is unlike anything else, because you're going to talk with a live person face to face. Mandy is the face of conservation when you first come in the door, and she will find the correct information for you and put you in contact with the people that can help. We've come out of COVID. We've survived it, those that's left of us. And we know that some of the businesses have gone away, like some of the local coffee shops like they did over in my town. But because of these local work groups and the coffee shop talks that the districts host all across the state, we're getting back to doing live interaction with people. The sharing of information is what it's about. Now, Bennett laid out what I'm going to term as a three-legged stool back in 1936 once he got his funding. The first leg of that stool is a local conservation district that is producer-led and producer-oriented. Everybody has a say. That's why there's an annual meeting. We go to the second leg of the stool, and that is our state association, which I help represent. If there is a resolution that comes forward from somebody about a resource concern, it is brought to our association. Sometimes it becomes policy, sometimes it does not. But that's how things work. From there, it goes, and we have help here with the Division of Conservation, and there's another organization known as the State Conservation Commission. And they all work together and make their recommendations to the legislature and the governor. From there, it goes to our National Association of Conservation Districts, where it is brought on into the U.S. Department of Ag and so forth. Along the same line, this acts as a pipeline. You got your producers right out here that have a concern. It begins up the pipeline into the conservation office, into the meeting, goes to the state, and on to the national level, because believe it or not, those elected officials up there don't know exactly what they're doing a lot of the time, but they want to know. And if you're genuine with them and tell them the truth and help them understand, that makes for better policy coming back down that pipeline. If they need to know something, get a hold of the conservation districts. They know what's going on because we're trusted. Two quick things on programs through the conservation district is the water resources cost share program. And Ronnie mentioned sedimentation just a little bit ago. This is the one to help prevent soil erosion and water sedimentation going into your lakes and your reservoirs. It also aids with nutrient and pesticide runoff to reduce that. And believe it or not, something else, fecal coliform bacteria in targeted public water supply reservoirs. And it also works to help with irrigation efficiency. All of the districts across the state, all 105, offer a comprehensive list of best management practices and components for landowners and operators. And some of these practices include terraces and waterways, which we're all familiar with, ponds, pasture and rangeland planting, filter strips, cross fencing, water wells, and pumping plants. The other one is non-point source pollution cost share, providing assistance for the establishment of practices with the contract with the goals of water quality protection and restoration in watersheds, information for adults and youth, again with the interaction through the schools, and other water quality issues identified by the state water planning process. And again, all are offered by all 105 of the districts. And this is where our soil health education funds come about to provide the conservation districts the opportunity to host the local events that Mandy outlined prior to this. Remember, all of this is done locally. This is our neighbors and the people we interact with. It's the community as a whole. There is a wealth of information in that office in there. Now, we all carry a phone, seems like. The smart ones still carry a flip phone, but I got one that does things that I don't understand. And we can Google a lot of things. But we don't know exactly what to, and there's a whole lot of half-truths and a lot of not-truths out there. But if you go in that door, that lady right over there is going to tell you the truth. And you're going to get it face to face and be able to see her reaction. And you're going to come out of there headed in the right direction. And again, as Ronnie mentioned a little while ago about that lake, He and Wayne Thorpe were on the Conservation District Board when that was brought about, and they were right in the middle of all the information in the right time at the right place to help get that established. And what they did that long time ago is affecting us all here still today. And in essence, we are still riding for the brand for people who aren't even born yet. So in closing, I wish to say that we are only caretakers of the land. We don't own it. We're temporary caretakers of it, and we've got to do the best we can. And to have that information and the personal interaction is extremely important. And I ask that you continue to fund the Bourbon County Conservation District. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I would like to introduce Andrew Lyon, who is here with the Department of Ag and the Division of Conservation.
Thank you, Darrell. And Commissioners, good evening. I won't belabor the point here this evening, but there are 2 points I would like to make for you this evening. Agriculture is the largest industry in the state of Kansas. It's also the largest industry here in Bourbon County. I'm going to start my phone here so I can make sure and get these figures correct for you. There are over 2,000 jobs here in Bourbon County that are directly related to agriculture. That's 23% of the jobs here in Bourbon County. Agriculture produces about $655 million worth of output each year. Okay, about 27% of the economy here in Bourbon County. When you think of the Conservation District, please think of us as the protection of that economic engine that is so vitally important to not only our state, but here in Bourbon County. The other point that I would like to make is that, we've talked about the history of conservation. I would note that before conservation districts were started, the feds tried to go it alone. They went at the beginning of the Dust Bowl out to the panhandle of Texas, and they were met at the farm gate with rifles. It was clear at that point that a top-down approach would not succeed. That's when Hugh Hammond Bennett went back and they really designed this local, state, and federal conservation partnership. That partnership has served us well for over 80 years. There were fail-safes put into place that if any of those entities chose not to participate, that it would dissolve the partnership. The whole structure would break down. And so when Jared talked about the dollars that we bring into the county from all of these different sources, it really is predicated on the idea that there is a local, state, and federal presence to bring this all together. And so, again, I, along with many here, would urge you to consider the funding for the Conservation District. I believe that this is an investment that the county makes that will provide a positive return on investment, not just for Bourbon County, but for the state of Kansas and the United States of America as well. So with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
I don't have any, thank you. You have any, Clifton, Nelson?
Nope. I mean, I don't have a question necessarily, but or maybe it is, I guess, a question, and I've talked to Mr. Pollack about it. And to be fair, I have not talked to Mandy about this, but I guess it's hard for me to support conservation when the state doesn't, or the feds don't. And I say that because my family tried to put land back in CRP and it was turned down. And so, and I know that's not the Conservation District's decision, but that it leaves a pretty sour taste in my mouth when we actually are trying to do conservation practices on extremely highly erodible land, and it's turned down to go back into the program. To be fair, I have not talked to Mandy about that, but I have a problem with that. How am I supposed to respond to that when I'm not being supported by the state or feds?
Yeah, and it's a great question.
And one more. I mean, if I read it right, we only have 3,000 acres in CRP in this county. I mean, where's the conservation at? We're farming road ditch to road ditch and tearing every acre we can, taking every hedgerow out we can. Where's the conservation at?
Yeah, and it's kind of a dichotomy. The 85 Farm Bill that developed CRP, was also, Earl Butts push out all the trees and farm it ditch to ditch. So certainly, I understand that concern, and you're right. I mean, those rules on CRP re-enrollments over time have been difficult to say the least. The fact that when you go to re-enroll, you have to take a reduction on the rental rate just because is appalling, especially on highly erodible lands. Again, I wish we could influence that federal policy more than we can. What I will say is that most districts across the state recognize this as a significant problem. And the one thing that we do try to provide on those expiring CRP acres is opportunity for livestock water source development on those acres, and even at times perimeter fencing on those. We like to try to.
I mean, I'm going to argue with that, though. You're taking it and you're putting it back into production to highly erodible land that's going to be overgrazed more than likely. That's going to actually conservation is not going to happen. I'm just
right. The hope there is that we keep it in grass, because again, you break that highly erodible land out, and we all know what's going to happen.
Did you go in and talk to the FSC people to see why it was not?
Oh, they told me over the phone. They didn't even talk to my relatives who own the land.
Well, I'm on the FSA board.
Well, it's really bad.
And I know the reason it was not put back in. So you really need to go talk to the FSA.
Well, I can. So I'm going to bring. Okay, we can talk about that later. But I'll bring pictures of other CRP, and I'll bring pictures of mine. How about that?
But you need to go to the right source and talk about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, he's from Bourbon City. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know,
No, he answered the right. I mean, he answered me.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know if that's the time and the place for that conversation right now. So I mean, I apologize. I don't want to. He's coming to help me, and I got to stand up for him.
It's a legitimate
your
concern.
answers.
Well, and again, it's a legitimate concern all across the state. And I do want you to know we're trying to do the best we can at the state level to put pressure on the feds for those types of issues. And certainly, those FSA county committees across the state, I mean, they're trying to do the best they can with the rules that come down. I would say that right now, the FSA state director, Dennis McKinney, probably the best state director we've had. That might be something to bring right to his attention, because he will get involved in local issues much more than some previous administrators would. So.
Well, they have pictures of a lot of Cerisa.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Is that it?
That's all we have.
All right, thank you.
Guys.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate the information and the dialogue and the questions and answers, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate it.
Okay. We're commission comment time, aren't we?
Yeah.
Bourbon County Commission comment time. Nelson? We'll start with you, young man.
Well, they're all leaving, that's fine. Well, I did speak with Mandy and Mr. Pollock face to face, and my issue, like I told both of them, it's not necessarily with the work they do, it's with the principle that, yet again, sound like a broken record, it's just a government program. It's the government, the feds, the state, and even county government is like a virus that has infected every aspect of life. It's involved in everything, and I do not agree with that. I think the government should be an unseen force for the most part. Police, court system, it's involved in everything, and I'm against it. So that's why I don't support Soil Conservation District. I don't mind the work that they do. I don't agree with the fact that there's 105 counties in Kansas. They all have it. Is it voluntary? I don't know. A whole bunch of people sure show up when you talk about getting rid of it. People from the state show up. And I don't have a problem with that, dude, but, people wearing sports jackets and all that. So, it's just, I don't know.
Well, you'll certainly get to vote.
Yeah, and somebody called me. I got a lot of phone calls about this, actually. And somebody called me. I can't remember his name. Nice gentleman, but he said I was he said it's the dumbest thing that anyone's ever said, something like that. And sorry, guys. I always try to stick with what I think, and if I'm not convinced otherwise, then no amount of pressure will make me change my mind. And I don't think the government should be involved in soil conservation. I believe the landowner, the person who owns the property, individuals make their own choices about what they want to do with that. And if they have information available to them, that's great, but I don't want taxpayer money going towards it. So, consequences be damned. That's my opinion still. That's it.
Okay. Clifton, any comments?
I've said enough, apparently. But I can guarantee you there'll be pictures at one of their board meetings. I promise you that.
Yeah.
You want to challenge me like that?
And my comment is,
Can't hear.
Could you hear me when I was talking?
They were like,
After they left, yeah.
can you hear me?
Oh.
My light's on, so. I don't totally disagree with what Nelson is saying, but sometimes government has to step forward because no one else is getting the job done. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. But there are, in my vote, there are instances where if we do one thing, it might improve other things and have a better payday back to the county or as investments, as that gentleman said, to pay back to us. So, again, he's not wrong, but I don't totally agree with him because sometimes county has to come forward and be the leader.
It's the principle. It's the government's our savior mindset. I'm not a government's our savior mindset type of guy.
Yeah, I understand. Well, what would you, well, it's not time to argue about different policies.
Well, I mean, no, we can say, so why do we fund the sheriff's department then? Why do we fund anything?
Well, if you want to get down
Why do we
to
fund
it,
anything?
if you want to get down to it,
why don't we defund the sheriff department and you neighborhood farmers police yourself?
if you want to get down to it, so I get my ideas of how the government works from the Bible. That's where I get my mindset of it. And so in Romans and Peter, it specifically talks about the government's role is to maintain safety. So to punish the wrongdoers, which would be law enforcement and the court system. That's why I believe it is a legitimate function of government, as well as infrastructure for roads and military protection. And we've gotten it into everything else. We've gotten government involved into literally almost name an aspect of life that they're not involved in. So, like I said, that's why I don't support it. That's where I get my idea of the legitimacy of government and why do they have to be involved in absolutely everything? Why do they have to mandate everything? Why do they have to take our money to do everything? People can take care of themselves, and if they can't, then that's on them.
What do we do with the ones that don't take care of themselves? There are people out there that don't have the ability or the funds.
Well, I'll tell you what we do. I'll tell you what we do now.
Don't yell at me. I'm not yelling at you yet.
I'm just making sure people can hear me.
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay. What we're doing right now is every meth head in town has got a state's benefits card in their pocket. I don't like that. So maybe we need to cut back on some of that.
What about, I read in the paper that the federal government or someone was purchasing meals, all U-234 and U-35 students all year. That's government money. What those kids hungry over there. Should we not feed them?
Okay, what about the state benefit cards for every meth head in town? I mean,
I'm not worried about meth. That's what we're paying you to take care. I'm worried about the kids, people that need help.
No. We're putting them in jail for stealing what they do constantly, but we're also, this hand of government is putting them in jail, and this hand of government is, oh, here, take all our damn money. So we can't afford, that's why our taxes are so high.
You didn't answer my question about the children.
That's a very common, it's a very common, it's a smokescreen, man. It's a straw man argument. That's not what I'm getting at here.
But it's government funded.
It's not what I'm getting at.
Without the funding, those kids would go hungry. I think that's the plain and simple truth of it.
That was my point. There are times the government has to step forward.
Okay, so do you think that the government should be involved in soil conservation? Where's an aspect of government that's involved in something now that you don't agree with?
Well, I haven't given that much thought, to be honest with you. I don't sit home and worry about it, to be honest with you.
well, that's why we have state benefit cards in everybody's
pocket.
pocket.
Stay out of my life.
There you go.
Completely. But I have a good job, and no different than you, Nelson. I've seen the poor people, and I've seen how they've lived. I've been in crack houses. I've been in those places that have been in drive-by shootings. I'm in them every week in the city, in Kansas City. But now, my opinion is that those kids I'm not going to see the kids, just FYI. But the places where I go and I see those kids and see how they live, there isn't anybody that's going to help them. Their parents aren't going to. They are the meth heads. They are the crack heads. They are the drug dealers. But those kids, they didn't have a choice to be born into that. They were just born in it. So what do we do about that? I don't know. I don't know. But I also know we have them in our own town.
Sure.
And I hope that we can help them somehow.
I hope so.
But, I mean, I think we're getting way off course. I mean, it has
Yeah, I
nothing
do
to
too.
do with
Definitely. Soil conservation.
I mean, from the Soil Conservation District, I mean, I guess we could say safety and water. I mean, that is true. We do need water. But, you know, whatever.
Well, we're getting ready to go into budget work session. Everyone can voice their opinion on their wants and needs for the 2024 budget. Then sooner or later, in a few weeks, we'll vote.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the end of it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can vote your opinion. I get
Yeah.
to vote mine.
Yeah.
Clifton will vote his.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
saying that, do we need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting, I guess?
I reckon. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I'm not
We'll take-
angry. I just talk loud.
Well, I got hearing aids, so you're real loud.
Okay.
Take it. I can't. They're the cheap one. The government didn't fund them. We'll take a 10-minute break and we'll get started. That's all right.
Government is only needed to keep capitalism in check. That's the only reason we need government.
Unfortunately, the morale of people, including myself, has gone down.
I would,
And when people
You actually read that.
themselves, then the government, it's not a good thing.
You know, keep in mind, in the imperial Roman period, they did not have a government per se. They had factions. And you had the people that were slaughtered and the people that were had vomitoriums. They ate so much. So there was a class, upper class, and no class. You had to get the government involved to keep the free enterprise and the capitalism in check. Because you would have nothing but haves and then have-nots. And they get left with the spoils. And you know, we do all these things in the name of the children. And I disagree with the fact that they're saying all these kids are so hungry. I never got free meals when I went to school, but I never went hungry. So we had good meals. We didn't. I went to public school. I didn't go to private school, so I went to college. And I paid for that. No loans.
I believe you could. Oh, how the hemorrhoids were out there. Oh, yeah.
I didn't have enough. You all ready for your trip?
Yeah, looking forward to it.
I called you the other day. I was gonna get you first class upgrades.
Oh, it rang once. It rang once, I called back and didn't answer.
That's what they all say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I slept with my phone the other night and I had to take it to T-Mobile and have them reset it. It was crazy. You said you were playing out of which way?
Yeah.
So I'm flying out of 14.
Oh, the 24th, I'm finding out I'm having a son right about
You know, there's only an inch over distance.
How long you having another baby?
Say what?
Durban baby?
My first baby, yes. My wife's pregnant.
I thought you were that.
Yeah, my brother, both my brothers have more than one. You're only 1 out of 5 that doesn't have one yet.
Okay, you're one of the triplets, right?
Yeah.
More than likely.
Well, it's a gift that just will keep on giving forever. I'll tell you. My youngest one will be 35 in November.
I got you.
It's a Clifton version of that.
Why should I fund it?
If you want the 3-ring binder volume or 3-volume set, I'll bring you a copy.
No big deal. I didn't know if you knew her well enough, but you can certainly let her know that. Are you on that board? No. Yeah. No big deal. Eric said you might know it, but he wasn't sure. So, anyway, you're the only person's cell phone number I had. So, anyway. Good enough. All right. Thanks, Steve.
Patty, how's Doug?
You better get your name in for a martini. I think we're about to finish.
Well, it sounds good, doesn't it, martini? That sounds awful good.
There must be some upstairs Shane, so.
Yeah.
Did you read any of those? What are the interesting things about
What is your grandson?
My youngest one is a junior.
Okay, so the senior year's coming up.
The oldest one is a freshman in college.
Oh, okay, okay.
He was a baseball guy. He's playing baseball out here.
So is that the one you would go see? Okay.
Yeah.
So the junior doesn't play
No, he plays football.
football?
He's not built for baseball. He's a great big kid. All right, are we ready to go back in session, gentlemen?
Well, budget work session.
Yes, budget
Work
work.
session.
Yeah.
Budget work session.
Not commission meeting session,
Not
right?
commissions. Thank you, Clifton. I think Susan will be back sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Have a coma violation right off the bat.
You catch it though, I promise.
Well, at least you're not raiding the newspaper.
Not yet. I'm kidding. Oh, I'm totally kidding. People need to take a
No,
joke.
they'll believe it. That'll be on Facebook. Probably already is, Nelson.
Oh, yeah, they're typing it right now.
He didn't even hear me, so it's all right.
Good.
No, he heard it.
No, I missed it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It was, at least I thought it was funny, but
Yeah.
I'm starting to find
I
out
did too, but
we don't all have the
I
same
mean,
sense of
I
humor.
thought so too. But
The whole story is
And then the county had a coma violation because it said on Facebook there that Paul, one of the commissioners, was at Senator Representative LaTurner's thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they ratted his own self out.
Are you gonna have a heart attack?
No, I'm wide
You have
awake.
the floor.
Okay, you ready?
Yep. I am if these gentlemen are ready.
Okay. The main points that I want to hit on tonight is it's cash reserves, and I have a lot of documentation here to talk about the importance of cash reserves. And I know there was a gentleman here, it's probably been about a month ago, that talked about that it wasn't necessary to have cash reserves. And so in your documentation, I have information from S&P, Moody's. Those are the people that actually rate our bonds and the reason why we get our ratings. And all that is detailed out in this information, as well as I contacted our financial advisor with Raymond James, and he also put some information in there and the importance of it. The reason why I want to really focus our efforts on that is because we are dropping below a threshold that is they consider a big mark. The amount you definitely want to stay above is $500,000, and with this budget that we're producing, we will be at we were at $200,000. But I think the way we have worked the budget, we have a way to kind of get ourselves out of that hole. How did we get there? By staying revenue neutral and not cutting services. That's easiest explanation I can give you is we kept staying with no tax increase, but we gave a raise 1 year to employees. We didn't cut any services. We didn't cut any people. And so you are continuing business as usual on less dollars because there's inflation, there's the cost of goods are going up. And so that's really where we are today. So these first two sheets, just kind of put them to the side for a second. We'll come back to them. But I want to, everything that I just spoke about is demonstrated in this information. So this third page, it has taxes levied at the top. Shows you what we have done over the last 3 years with the proposed 2024 changes. And the total change in our mill levy is 6.7 mils is what we have decreased our mill levy since 2021. And that is a pretty significant amount. And so now this is the year, and I know we've talked about this over the last 2 years, that this is the year that we're gonna get hit, and this is definitely it. So if you drop down to the next category, we talk about cash carryovers. It is prudent, it's good practice for us to have 2 to 3 months of operating cash on hand. That's if you have, the economy takes a little bit of a dive. We might have one of our major businesses leave. We just have to be prepared for that in the event that something like that would happen. This one shows that our cash carryover since 2020 has dropped $1.2 million. And that's in various funds, but the biggest fund being our general fund. And additional is our employee benefits fund. We've had some extra cash in there, so we've kind of brought it down to a level where we just have about 1 month's. I'm not comfortable with it, but that's how I got us to levy flat. So this puts, I think, the county at risk if the economy does change in our area. We do have, right below that, we have a fund that's called the General Equipment Reserve Cash Balance Fund, and it has run about $200,000 for several years. We put $200,000 in there last year because we had a little bit of extra. But I think in this budget year, we are probably going to have to pull 200,000 back over to the general fund, leaving us with 194,000 in that fund. The money that's sitting in that fund is for repairs of buildings. We have a big equipment failure. We have an elevator go out. Those are for those expenses for those types of equipment failures. If you drop down to the next section, we have our actual expenditures. This shows you, and the only thing that I'm presenting here are the levied funds. I didn't even look at any of the other funds. We're just looking at levied funds because that's really what we're taxing on. You can see that the 2024 budget, if you look at the actual budget line item, it's up $104,000. But these first two sheets here explain why there's an increase. I was asked to work into having those people that are 35-hour employees, moving them to a 40-hour work week with a minimum wage of $15 per hour. And that costs $33,000 to do that move. Our liability insurance is going up $50,000 this year. We've had a lot of claims in the past year, and so it is going to take a hit. We're also proposing a software upgrade, and so we built that into the budget to be able to handle the maintenance that is required for that software. We reinstated the computer equipment reserve. We had dropped that off for a couple of years, but it's important to have those funds going in to replace computers in all the offices. We did do a decrease in emergency management of about $30,000. But I'm having to make this equipment reserve transfer of $200,000 to make all this work. We left the longevity built in. And pilot funds. The pilot funds are available in 2024, and I just put $165,000 to be used at your discretion. In the past, that has helped fund Ready, but I just put it in there as a line item that says pilot, so that you can know how to use those funds.
And that doesn't affect the mill levy at all, does it? Right?
No.
Yeah, okay.
We are protecting $250,000 in cash reserves in this budget that I'm presenting. But that's in the general fund. But you also have that you can use for your cash reserves, the $194,000 that'll be set in this equipment fund. So that brings you up to about $450,000. With interest the way it is, I think we're probably going to gain about another $50,000. So we're up to that $500,000 cash carryover amount.
You're calling the equipment fund, is that what we used to call it? What do we used to call it? Always equipment fund?
There was a general reserve and then we put those two funds together.
Okay. All right.
So, and it's really just for this, for the main building. Okay. So really, in the end, when we'll probably end up with about a $500,000 carryover, we really want it to be about $800,000 to $1 million. I mean, that's a good carryover. If you take into consideration what you have in employee benefits, that gives you another $100,000. And so you can add all those together, but having our carryover in the general fund at $250,000 is not ideal. I mean, it's just not a good scenario for us. It shows expenditures by department on this bottom part, so you can kind of see where there have been increases. But I also wanted to put in there, as you see changes, I have to look at road and bridge and public safety in a different sense. Public safety, we have in 2022, in order to help fund some of his projects, we pulled all of his lease purchases out of his regular general fund and moved them over to the sales tax fund. And so we have continued that process every year. So you have to add the two together to really know what it's costing for public safety. Same thing for road and bridge, except for where you see an increase in road and bridge, you're probably going to see a road and bridge increase in sales tax because you're making a transfer from the sales tax fund to the road and bridge fund as we do more roads, hard surfaced roads. So Any questions on any of this?
Yeah, increase requested, $400,000 total increase request.
Yes. EMS, this is our first full year of EMS that we have seen, and for the county's budget, and it needed to be increased in order to meet the payrolls that are coming through.
Well, I'm guessing the city didn't make $235,000 mistake.
Different, maybe it's managed differently. I can't answer that question. There was a different director at the time. But looking at how the wages, I mean, I've projected all the wages and looked at what the last year's been from May to May, and this is where we're gonna be. So, that's taken a good chunk of the money, you're correct. However, services are also going up too, so you're getting money to help fund that too. You're not levying any more than what you normally would levy in that fund. Does that make sense?
So we're not levying the 200,000.
You are, but in 2021 you levied 305,000. In 2024 you're going to levy 212,000. So you're getting more.
I'm looking at the 1.129, 1.15, 1.3.
But you've also built in some cash reserves for one. We've never had cash reserves there.
Mm-hmm.
You've built in some money for some equipment. But if you look up at the top up here at taxes levied, in 21 you levied 305,000. Okay. You're only going to levy 212 this year.
Okay.
So you're getting more money for the services coming into the fund. Allows your expenditures to be a little bit more. But part of that is the payroll. So moving right along. The next sheet shows you all the changes that took place in each of the funds and how we got to this point. The commission, there was no change. There was an increase in the treasurer's budget for $13,000, and that was moving those people to 40 hours a week. Register of Deeds, same thing, but the $10,000 that was requested for the elected official was not funded in this actual budget that's being presented. You see a decrease in emergency preparedness, IT. There was just a shift of duties from the IT to the emergency preparedness. Let's see, what else? I built in some overtime for the custodial because they have been having some overtime. We built in the presidential election, some extra money there. So next year, in 2025, that budget, you can drop that back down. Again, motor vehicle, it's not a budgeted fund, but I wanted to show what the impact is because it definitely impacts our revenue. At the end of each year, you move whatever's remaining in motor vehicle to the general fund, and so that was reduced. So I wanted to show why it was reduced, and that is because we increased the 40-hour work week. EMS, 172,000 is what their increase is. Trying to look here. Overall increase to Public Works was pretty much a wash.
This the commission, 64,250. How much of that is wages and how much of it is insurance? Like if you were to take the
No insurance. Employee benefits do not come out of these budgets.
But it's all wages there.
Mm-hmm. It's wages and a little bit of contractual for going to some conferences. It's very small. I can get to that detail here in just a second. It's in your following pages. The next few pages are memorandums from Raymond James, S&P, and Moody's. That's just for your information. Then you'll have the page that says Notice of Hearing to Exceed Revenue Neutral Rate. And as you can see, we are at the same levy as last year. And some will say, but your assessed valuation went up, so you were able to capture that increase in assessed valuation. Yes, we were. So I would just want to make that very clear. You did capture the increase, and that could be because someone fallen off a neighborhood revitalization. That could be some IRBs. I mean, there's lots of reasons why your assessed valuations go up.
And that will help us the years we went backwards.
Yes. Yeah. One thing I want to show on public safety, there is a pretty significant negative on their change in assessed valuation tax, their ad valorem tax. And the reason why that is because they had a pretty good carryover from last year to this year. That I look at that as one-time money. So it reduced his levy for this year, but his levy's probably going to go back up next year if you continue to spend the same amount of dollars. So we're basically using cash reserve to help fund some of these operations for 23.
Now, is there such thing as, it used to be a contingency fund? Is that the same as equipment reserve?
It is in your general fund. So if you go to the next page, we'll get into the guts of these levied funds.
Okay.
So this first page is all revenue. And if you'll look in the second column where it says current year estimate for 2023, the main thing that I want to point out is that interest is up, and I would expect it to be up even more than that. That's a conservative number. I think we're looking closer at maybe 300,000, so that just helps our cash carryover. And then we have this transfer from reserves. And if you'll see right above that, it says transfer for motor vehicle is 20,000, and then you see it go down next year to 10,000, and that is because we are increasing that person from 35 hours to 40 hours, and so it cuts down on that, what's carried over.
Okay.
Any questions on the revenue side? And I tend to be a little more conservative on revenue. Be better to have extra than to not have it and have to make some major changes. The next page on the back of that is all your departments in the general fund are all put together. And then 6B, page 6B is the detail. So you asked about the county commission. You have $64,000 for salaries. You have $4,500 for travel and about $1,500 for just basic supplies. And these are all the same things that were discussed on that front page, that letter that I had. I'm protecting the $250,000 cash reserves, and like I said, I feel like we'll be better than what we anticipate when you put the two or three funds together and what the reserve carryover is. 6C is just more information on each department. The first column is your actuals for 22. And of course, we do not have our audit back yet. So those are what's on the ledger. If there's any kind of adjusting journal entries, then these numbers might change a little bit, but she was able to tie out cash when she was here the last time. 2023, I used what was budgeted, so it basically uses up all the dollars. If people don't spend their entire budget, then that just adds to helping us with carryovers. And then I put everybody back to what they were last year, pretty much, with the few changes that we knew about, like liability insurance increases. Questions on general fund? No?
My question on the contingency fund, is that mixed with the general money?
Yes.
Okay.
So
How much is that?
we have 50,000 each year for longevity.
Okay.
You have 50,000 for jury trials each year,
Okay,
so about 100,000.
okay. That's it there, okay.
And I've been told that jury trials in the past had always had about 100,000 sitting in there, so let's cross our fingers. This is a pretty tight budget, especially if everybody spends their budget.
Just to reiterate, this is giving nobody the increases that they asked for, is that correct?
Correct. There's a few areas where we gave, so let me just run through them real quick in the general fund. Let's see. County treasurer increased due to moving from 35 to 40 hours a week. Register of deeds, same situation. Courthouse general, you're seeing a huge decrease, but we created a new department called custodial. And there's a little bit of there's a difference in the pay there, but we had other areas where we made up for that. So it's really, this is what we think we're gonna spend. We wanted to pull out the custodial so we could really identify what's being spent there. Emergency preparedness, there was a decrease of $15,000 in that fund. IT, there's an increase because of the new software data. And you can see that pretty clearly in the contractual line item. CFO, there was an increase of $6,000 because we moved all the drug testing, which that could potentially go down. So you probably see some savings there since we are just doing public works. Transfer to equipment, computer equipment, we reinstated that. And then the ready, there was some money, there's some savings there.
So really that we're not 165 sitting over a pilot fund. If we choose to fund ready,
Mm-hmm.
the money is there if we choose to by vote,
Yeah.
of course. And then, but it's not targeted in this budget. That's just pilot money. It's not tax dollars
Right.
anyway. It's not levy
It says
tax.
appropriations to ready here,
Yeah.
but
But
this.
so far it has been going to ready.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, this is where you would go back in and say, I want it to say this in the budget line. I don't want it to say appropriations to ready, or I don't want it to say, you know, it has all the other appropriations that we have. So we have the fair board, the health board, soil conservation, elderly, and ready. I think those are the ones that are in your general fund. So those are there's some that were required, some that you're not.
Okay.
So that's general fund. Appraiser, there is no change. Election, it's up because of the presidential election. Employee benefits. And I'm hoping that Don Doherty's going to get with us soon before we finalize the budget, so that, because that could change our numbers. But for now, this is what I'm projecting. And you can see that I've cut our cash forward from 23 to 24, about 150,000. So, mental health, no change. Intellectual disabilities, no change. Public safety. This one looks funny. So if you look at column 2, there's an amount of $211,992 towards the bottom. So what I put into this budget was he would spend what we budgeted for 23. With his cash carryover and me moving money from the sales tax fund over to this fund, it gives an extra $211,000 for this year. If he uses that, then I'll have to do a budget amendment. But if you look at that very bottom line in column 2, it says $2,085,000. That's really what we budgeted for 23. And so for 24, that is also what we budgeted. I just had to walk you through that a little bit. So To make this all work so that we have a flat levy, we have to use $167,000 in '23 and $250,000 in '24 from the sales tax to help for the operations of the jail. I do not think that's good policy. I think we need to, we can make it work for this year, but next year, if you so choose, as assessed valuations, if they come in a little higher, we start weaning ourselves off of using those dollars for that and start paying our bonds down. So, but to make it work for this year, that's what we had to do. Any questions on public safety?
And how did we do it last year if we have to do that this year?
We had 167,000 built in last year. It's always been there. And it's how your levies all work to make it flat. This is the only place that I really had any extra cash sitting there. And so you have to use it a certain way. And this is the only place you can use it is public safety or for your buildings. And so that's why if you had sales tax in another fund that we could reduce, the general fund, then we could do it that way. But this is really the only use it can be used for.
For 2023, you're anticipating public safety to go over budget $211,000 of the original budget was set.
They can if the revenues come in on target.
Yes, but higher than the original budget, over budget.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's because if you look at the column before it, it's a one-time money.
Yes.
If you look at the column before it, they had a carryover of $136,992. That is why they have this extra money to work with. And part of that was probably because some of the bills, I don't know if not all the bills came in for corrections or why they had such a carryover, but they had a pretty good carryover.
But real numbers at 136 should be deducted from the 211?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Anticipated budget?
Yep.
Okay. Which is a lot closer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So you don't anticipate any carryover for him this year?
Mm-mm. It's always better to budget that way when you've done it that way all along, because otherwise it starts messing with your levies.
Yeah, I understand.
EMS, we've already kind of talked about that. You can see where their increases. 2022 was just a small portion was being paid out of there. 2023, it may come in a little bit higher than that, so our carryover could be less. But for 2024, I think we're more along the lines of 885.
Now, is that because we was understaffed in 2023?
Mm-hmm.
And what now that's going to put us at
We're
full
fully
staff?
staffed. We're fully staffed now. Yeah. And it's the way they run their shifts. We've looked at it. I know Terry's looked at it lots of different ways. But just to even maintain employees, she's had to give a couple of people, raises. And there's a raise, and when I say a raise, they're making $13, $15, $14 an hour just to keep them here.
Right. I noticed commodities went up 65,000. You know what that is?
It's just a shift from contractual to commodities.
Okay.
So you can really see, that's misspelled. Okay. You can really see it was just a shift.
Just a shift,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. One
because that's really how things are being spent.
moved it from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And this transfer to EMS is really to kind of get us in shape to start changing out some of our older ambulances or if they fail. Now, special alcohol and drugs. I think this is actually a fund that you guys have discretion on. You get about $900 in liquor tax. You wouldn't even have to levy this fund. I'm not sure. We're sending $4,500 to SEK Mental Health out of this fund, but you're also sending them other money.
I think 90,000 in
Yeah.
other funds.
So I don't. I don't know why this has been levied in the past. But really what you should do is just send your alcohol and liquor tax to them, and maybe you don't levy it.
The county tax?
Mm-hmm.
County tax on every time liquor is sold?
Yes, it's not a county, it's a state tax. We get a portion of it. It comes back to us, and a third of it goes to the general fund, a third goes to your special alcohol fund, and a third goes to special parks. But for some reason, the county in the past has had this as a levied fund as well as using those tax dollars. And I honestly couldn't tell you why. I just know that we make a distribution to them of $4,500 every year. I don't know if there's a contract. And we can do some research, but I need some direction on this. Do you want to leave it like it is? Do you want to?
So we get 4,500.
You get you get $3,323 is what you're levying.
What's the $4,500?
You're sending that to SEK Mental Health. You get about $900 from alcohol liquor tax.
I'd personally say we do away with it, but they get their 90,000.
Yeah, I would agree. We're always sending the other fund $90,000 a year. That's that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Clifton on that.
I don't know if Justin's still here.
He left.
Did he leave? I'll do away. I can do away with it if that's kind of where the commission wants to go. And then if something changes and Justin says, "Oh, hey, this is why this is," because he's been here the longest, then I can come back. Okay.
You said a third goes to.
So a third of the money. So $900 go, or $875, roughly $800. $800 will go in the general fund. $800 will go in special alcohol and drugs, and $800 goes into special parks. And that's a law. It's a statute that we have to follow.
What it says that the money gets dispersed.
Mm-hmm. Liquor tax. Yep.
But then once it's deposited in those funds, then what? Then you get.
There's certain things that you can use it for. So special alcohol and drugs does not have to go to SEK Mental Health. It can go to, when I worked at the city, we did it for drug interdiction. Honestly, they did it for, they would give some donations to the after parties for like the seniors at like the high school seniors and the proms to keep them from going out and partaking in alcohol. You can do it for education. Well, it keeps them there till 1 or 2 in the morning. I know it's heavily attended.
What are the other options legally that you know of anyway?
It's very specific in the law. You have to do education, interdiction, which is why probably we give it to mental health. It's not a lot of money,
Interdiction is not mental health.
but they use it
do
for that.
interdiction.
Yeah, I do know they do.
Yeah, they have counselors.
And there's one other category. I'm very specific on what you can use it for this fund.
Yeah, I guess we should find out. So see if we like anything else better that we can give it to.
That's totally up to the commission. You're looking at about $800 in this fund that you'll have if we don't levy for it. So, okay. Bridge and culvert, it went up a little bit, but again, he moved his expenses around, so it's about a wash for how he moved his money. Next one's noxious weeds. And this is the one where we always struggle with having enough cash to buy enough chemicals. It's a cash flow problem. And it's because we sell it at a discount and we have to by law. So I've built in cash forward of 30,000 for each year to always have that money sitting there. I think we're doing okay right now, Eric, is that correct? Road and Bridge, you'll actually see it go down a little bit to compensate for where we went up in other areas. And then Special Bridge is the same situation. So now comes the hard part, discussion. So you have to have it to the clerk by the 1st. As far as the last ditch effort we can have on a hearing. The 19th, nope. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We could do it on the 26th of September. That would give me enough time to, you have to have 10 days in between when you publish and the hearing. So the last time you could have a hearing would be, or sorry, the 25th. Our meetings are on Monday. We're not changing those, are we?
What's that?
The meetings?
We didn't talk about changing.
Okay.
That I know of.
That totally changes everything if we do, so, okay. Okay, so the 25th would be the last time you could have a hearing. I was looking more towards the 11th as having a hearing. If you guys are comfortable with this, that means I would have to publish by when? By Wednesday the 30th, I would have to publish.
So we would have one more meeting to discuss this before the budget was published.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're talking about deciding on the 11th or having the.
No, you would have to decide on the 28th of whether or not you're comfortable with. So if there's changes that need to be made, I need to go back and do those and show you the results.
I'm going to be gone on the 11th. And I don't want to, I possibly will be able to call in. But I'd have to, whether I have internet on the in South Korea.
Okay, so we'd be back by the 18th?
Nope.
So here's the problem with the 25th. I'll just tell you the pros and cons. If you do the 25th, you're locked in. If somebody comes in and you have the hearing and they don't like it and you guys decide, oh, hey, we probably ought to make this change, I can't because I have to have it to the clerk by the 1st.
What's wrong with having it online?
Yeah. Unless you have it at a different date and time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I would have to publish. That wouldn't work because I'd have to publish Saturday. So we'd have to have well, I guess we could use next week's, the 28th.
When do you get back, Nelson?
I get back on the 24th. Leave?
So you'll have to make decisions next week if you want to push it up that quick. 30th. That still wouldn't give me enough time because we would publish on the 30th.
What do you, so
I have
there's
to have-
rules that if we have a meeting,
I have
then
to
you
have-
have to publish in so many days after we vote. Like if we voted tonight to approve this budget, it has to be published in
And then
so
you-
many days.
It has to be published, and then you have to have 10 days in between your hearing and the time that it publishes. So the quickest I could get it to the paper would be if we have a meeting on the 28th, I can get it to the paper on the 30th.
Well, you mean if the 25th didn't work
25th is a Friday.
of September? 25th is Monday.
No.
Oh, you're talking about 25th of.
I'm talking about, yeah, because you were wanting to have a meeting in the first part of August. If you do the 25th of December, that's it. That's it. You don't get to.
25th of what?
Or sorry, September. If you do the 25th of September, that's it. You don't have another opportunity to have another meeting.
So we can have another meeting next week. We can discuss it again. Why
Yeah.
can't we discuss it again next week?
You can.
Is there rules for that? Okay.
No, you can, but with him being gone,
He ain't
so
gonna be gone next week.
I understand that. Okay, so let's just talk this through. The 28th, we have the meeting. I publish it on the 30th. I got to count 10 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The earliest you can.
No. You're assuming we voted on. You're assuming we vote on it next week.
Yes.
What if we don't? We don't. What if we wait till the 25th to vote on it of September?
If you have to tell me when you're going to do your public hearing. You identify the date that you're going to do your public hearing.
And
If
we
your
only
public
have one shot at a public hearing. We
Yes.
can't have two.
No, because you have to have 10 days in between each time you publish.
What's the final date for we can have the public hearing?
But this is a public hearing meeting.
No, it's not.
So this is but we can have another budget meeting
Yes.
next week.
But when I publish it in the paper, that sets the schedule. Okay?
Sure, I understand that, but we can still talk about it again next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to tell you is I will publish it on the 30th because the paper only runs on Wednesday and Saturday.
If
I
we
publish it on the 30th.
If we
He will
decide
be
next week-
gone.
If we decide next week. Right?
He will be gone. I'm just telling you. He will be gone on the 11th when we would have the public hearing.
Yep. We're not gonna do that.
Okay, so
Could we have?
what are you not understanding about the 10 days in between?
We're not going to. We can have a work session and then a public hearing. You just said we could have the public hearing on the 25th.
Yes, but if you come out of that public hearing and you don't want to approve the budget, you can't have another hearing because you don't have 10 days before October 1st.
Okay.
So when we go into the public hearing,
Go
we-
out of the meeting on the 25th.
If you have a
public hearing after you've approved it.
Who says we have to approve a budget? This is what irritates me. We can
The
all.
statute says you have to approve the budget.
What are they gonna do?
Well, listen.
I'm here to guide you
I
on
know,
what the
but I'm
law
just
says.
saying,
The 25th of August. And you
Yes.
said we
No,
walk
the
out
25th
of
September.
Okay, well, could we have a meeting, could we have maybe a budget hearing on the 5th of September?
No,
which is
I do not have enough time in between.
Okay.
Unless you approve it tonight, you approve it tonight, and I can get you on the 5th.
Who wants to approve it tonight?
No, I don't. I won't.
I won't either.
Okay.
I don't make the rules.
I would just hate to risk not being able to call in. That's the thing.
I understand.
Because it would work. It's not gonna be it would be a. I don't know how it would. It'd be an international call, or I could do, I don't know, Facebook. That would work.
Mhm.
But we'd have to get that set up.
I mean, if you guys want to go with the 25th, but if you have a big gathering here and people are, upset and you want to say, okay, well, we need to go back and revisit this, you don't have enough time to meet the deadlines for the clerk. And there's deadlines there for a reason because she has to finalize the abstract.
And when you say the 25th, you mean talking about this coming Friday, right?
No, I'm talking about September.
Okay.
I do not have enough time in between. You have to have 10 days. From the time you guys tell me go,
Say that one more time.
by the time you tell me go, the paper runs on Wednesday
Yeah.
and Saturday. So I count 10 days from that
And
day.
your problem with the 25th of September
Is you have no opportunity to
change our minds.
Right.
Okay, but we have until now to then to make up our minds.
Yes.
So I don't change my
No,
mind
not
very
really.
easily.
You don't have that because you got to give me 10 days ahead of it.
Okay.
We have till the 15th to change our mind, correct? That's a 10-day backup.
I'll be fine. I don't know. I can't speak for the others.
I'm sure we'll work through it.
I just need direction on what you want me to bring the next meeting, and
So I have a few questions.
and Jennifer has to know the hearing. Actually, Jennifer does have to know the hearing date because it has to go out to the public. So you do
yeah.
have to set your hearing. Yep. So set a date.
So I have a few questions on this session. I mean, there was $300,000 at one point. We talked about that was set aside for courthouse repairs.
That's in your sales tax
Is
fund.
that I don't agree. Okay, I don't agree with that.
Is that in the general?
Okay, you don't want to do repairs out of that money for the building?
Not $300,000 worth of
Where's
repairs.
that
I
at?
don't know what they are.
Nobody's saying, that's just what's been set aside. No, there hasn't been bids that have come through. You've got windows and you've got tuck pointing to this building that need to be done.
Is that in the general?
No, it is in your sales tax fund.
Sales tax fund.
The jail sales tax fund.
Okay, because you
It
spend
can
it
be
on county
used
buildings.
for
I got
county
you.
buildings.
Okay, now I'm with you.
That will work for you to do a budget hearing.
Are you approving anything tonight?
Let's say we don't.
Okay.
What would be the earliest?
So if we go next on the 28th, I will publish on the 30th, and I've got 10 days.
Okay.
You could have a meeting on the 8th.
It had to be early, that's home football.
On September 8th? Yeah, I work on Fridays, so I won't be there, but it's fine. I mean, actually, I could probably be back by 6.
You could do it on the 9th.
I work on Saturdays.
Okay.
I just asked to keep Tiger football in mind somewhere along the line.
Let me see exactly.
On the windows in the building, is that something we can do over a 2 or 3 year period, or reduce that down? Yeah.
300,000 is just a number to save those dollars. It doesn't mean that's what the cost of the improvements is gonna be.
Okay.
That's just a,
That's how the sales tax fund,
Yep.
anyway, it's not mill levy,
right, correct.
so it doesn't affect that mill.
That's correct.
So you're saying if we had the hearing on the 28th,
On the 28th, on the 8th, on the,
my bad. If we can't do the September 8th because Clifton's working,
mm-hmm.
and we can't do the 9th. 10th is
It's Sunday.
Sunday.
I mean, I'd say, if we had a meeting on a Friday, I don't know, people probably wouldn't be very happy if they want to come on a Friday night. No, I don't think that's, anyway.
You could have another meeting.
I could probably be back by 5.
You could have another
maybe.
meeting this week.
You said meeting, you need a budget hearing.
You could you could have another meeting on the budget this week.
Can't be Wednesday.
Well,
I believe.
the latest I could do would be the 24th, and then I'd probably be here till midnight getting it ready for the paper to be published on the 26th. Noon, you can have it on the 5th.
The 5th,
The public hearing on the 5th,
Can publish.
yeah, the 4th's a holiday, so.
the 5th would be good for me to have a public hearing, but to do that, we need to have,
Another
the
budget
meeting by
meeting.
24th.
Yes.
And I could do the 24th. It would have to be,
The 24th is in 3 days from now?
yep, but it would have to be in the evening,
Me too.
and I gotta see,
And then that would give you enough time that if you needed to do another public hearing, you could have it on the 25th.
I can make a phone call. It's work related. What time's your doctor's appointment? Alright, sounds good, thanks. Love ya. So I should be able to make it back by 5:30.
5:30, 24th? Can you do the 24th? Can you do the 24th? Can you have your thoughts all together by the 24th?
Well, I can't answer that.
I will.
Well, if you want me to present something different, I need to know that so I can be working on it over the next 2 days. And keep in mind, tomorrow's payroll day, so I really need to know.
Actually, in my opinion, we are, with the proposed budget,
Or the levy flat.
we are mill levy flat. I'm okay with it right now, actually.
Well, I'm not. Wait. Okay, are we gonna, how much are we gonna fund? What are we gonna do with the 165 pilot funds, you know, this stuff?
Just sitting there. It's just there. We
Sitting
can
there
spend
so
it
you
later.
can determine later.
Okay.
We don't have to decide that till later.
Soil conservation?
Yeah.
Do you want to sleep on that?
Yeah, probably better.
Okay.
So we're good for the 24th at 5:30?
Do I need to prepare anything different?
I like the flat mill levy, and I like no increases. I think the pilot money is there. If we vote later to fund ready, it's available. But I think we need to really discuss that moving forward, economic development, but there's some different avenues that we might want to look at. But I think ready can be reduced.
And the
funding.
200,000 was spent on something else, right?
Yes, it's reducing your levy.
Okay. That's what I thought.
I'm sorry, Cliff, what was that?
The 200,000 that comes with it.
Pilot money.
Oh,
Once you put that in
Yeah.
to use it that way,
And
Yeah.
since we're
Yeah.
done,
it's pretty hard to pull it out.
we're gonna have the public hearing, so not to upset the apple cart here, but I'm I'm also okay if you want to look at. I know that we have to be paid by law, but it doesn't specify a certain amount that I know of. If you look into that and see if everything's on the chopping block, I'm fine for the commission budget to be on the chopping block as well. So
I wouldn't put them in numbers just yet. I'd just give him the information.
Okay.
My vote would be not to change his number, but he wants to know what's available there, and that's a great question, so.
Okay. All right.
because that what was presented to us was just wages.
Yes. I will change the way that's spelled out for the appropriations ready. I'll just put pilot appropriations, and then that way it's discretionary.
Okay.
And this is just a budget. We don't have to spend it, and we
Okay.
can go over.
You can go over. Yes, you can, and break the county.
Well, we don't want to. I'm just saying. I mean, we can. We don't want to. I mean, the money, just because it's budgeted, doesn't have to be spent.
I would
Nor-
hope that people would try to conserve as much as they possibly can, especially in the situation that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did break it out to appropriations to Bourbon County senior citizens and area on aging. Does anybody want to do any more research on that? Because there hasn't been a lot of discussion around that.
I'm okay with it being broken out.
We talked about making it more streamlined.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no sense in money being touched by 2 or 3 different people.
Yep.
And Susan, Clifton mentioned that 300,000 buildings, window, et cetera.
That's a non-budgeted fund.
Right.
So it doesn't have
It
to,
had nothing to do with the mill levy.
right, correct.
One other thing I would like to give you some thought to, and this is just me. We had a lot of folks got a pay raise in 2022. Everyone got the 3%, and then I believe, is that right?
It was 1%, I think.
1%. Then the public safety people got some nice increases that they needed, and Eric's done a fine job of moving his people up. But we've still got a group of people that hadn't had a pay raise for a couple of years. I don't know where we would fund it, but
This budget includes the raising the people to 15.
But there's still other people that didn't get anything.
yeah, that's I don't know if that number's 20 or 25. We have some employees that hadn't had a pay raise a long, long time. And I don't know how we would fund it. I don't know what that number would be, but.
I don't know how you would, how would you determine your parameters? What's the time frame of not getting a raise? Were they promotions? Were they not promotions?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So you'd have to set some, like a matrix almost.
It might be tough to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, some people got pay raises, but maybe it's a promotion, so it wasn't a pay raise. So
Right.
that's what a lot of Erics are. They go up in 3, and 4, and 5, right up the line.
Yeah.
I don't know, it might be a wasted question, but I just give it some thought. But I know a lot of people, of course, I hope inflation and interest gets better, but I know a lot of folks that I know struggling financially, so.
It was kind of our plan to make up our minds about this budget on the 24th and then set it for a hearing to have people voice their concerns.
So Jennifer just walked in. Jennifer, when do you need the date of their hearing?
As soon as possible.
Well, we're gonna.
Is the
In
24th too late? That's 2 days.
No.
It's okay.
That'll
Okay.
be okay.
Okay.
Okay, works for me.
24th, 5:30.
But that's not the public hearing.
No,
So
that's
make sure,
another
Jason,
No, we
not the
definitely
public
have-
hearing.
And
another work session.
yeah, I should definitely be there. I should definitely make it by 5:30. Unless I get the car.
Don't do that.
Don't say that. So I really don't have a lot to present. It's really just gonna be you guys discussing. I'll bring my laptop if you wanna change numbers. That's about all I can
Change numbers.
in the budget.
Oh, yeah. Forgot. Sounds good. 24th, 5:30. I mean, I think we probably only have a few things we're gonna talk about because it's all set in ways.
I think we all vote no and see what happens. That's what
You'll have no funding for next year.
I wouldn't look for a 3-0 vote if I was you. I don't see us going.
I don't, this is your most
I don't see
important
us-
thing that you guys do,
I don't see us
and
going that direction. That's all right, that's why
I
we get to
think there
vote.
needs to be, yeah, I think there needs to be some real thought.
Say what? Okay.
Talking amongst ourselves back here.
Peanut gallery.
You could drop it to R&R. You could, you don't have to. You can't go above the amount that we gave Jennifer, and we're already well below that.
Mm-hmm.
So, we can keep going lower. I would not recommend it, but we can keep going lower.
Yeah, we could go, that's what we did last year. With revenue neutral, even though we had the hearings.
But to do that, we have to cut services, and
Yes,
I'm
you
the only
do.
one who wants to do that, I guess.
Well, what services do you want to cut?
Well, I put forth my position on soil conservation.
Yeah, but that's
$40,000.
peanuts compared to,
That's peanuts.
You gotta
compared
start
to everything.
somewhere.
Okay,
You gotta start somewhere.
well,
That's almost $500,000.
Let's do this,
But-
cut 200,000 short, 200 from there.
Go ahead and vote no on that.
Oh, I thought you wanted to cut service.
We can cut 64,000 from the commission budget. You want to?
Oh, you can cut 1/3 of that. Yours.
I'll cut a third. Shit, I'll vote right now to cut a third.
You can't vote.
I will express my opinion right
Thank
now.
you. There you
I
go.
don't want to turn much bigger. I would suggest you pick out a charity and give yours to.
I don't know that you can do benefits if you do that.
I don't get the benefits.
I know.
Well, there has to be like $1 by law. You have to get paid something.
But I have to take a deduction. So I'd have to pay you what your deductions are.
Something to look into.
Okay.
Cause yeah.
You can write us back a check.
Right now, my checks are already being held. So
It's being held?
I'm not cashing the checks. They're staying at the clerk's office.
No.
Yes.
I don't run a check for you.
It's a direct deposit.
It's direct deposit.
No, I told them to stop direct
The
deposit.
clerk does not do payroll.
Well, they said they'd take care of it, and I don't think I've gotten a paycheck since then. or
Yeah,
a
you
direct
have.
deposit since
Yes, you have. Okay. We can talk about this later.
So does it give a public hearing date, so just so we'll know?
No, we do
Okay.
not.
So we're not gonna know till Thursday?
Yes.
Okay. But we'll know it would be before the 11th.
We hope. Gives us a second opportunity for the 25th if we have to. You guys are like working with a bunch of women.
Why is that a bad thing? Are you saying it's bad?
Well, we're always told that we can't make decisions.
I could have voted tonight, so.
I know.
Okay.
Just let me know.
Thursday.
Is someone gonna make a motion?
Do we have to make
You
a
don't
motion?
have to make a motion.
Yeah,
You're
we're
done.
Okay.
Motion. You can motion all you want. We could have the Memorial Clifton Best Sell at El Dorado. What? Yeah, what? I know you don't. And neither does anybody at the people. And neither does all substantiated for the court. Yes, sir. For sure. I will give you all of that. This is public information. Yes, those are all. Check.
That's the old, I was.
He doesn't even know what it is.
They said that sale went. You know, you might be running dry. Okay, all right. That's pretty good. Yep.
That's real good. Should bought us. Oh.
She was there, she looked at that little mini excavator for me. I think that went for 19. That's when you stood on the back and it had a Honda engine, it had a little. Okay. All right.
How did that feel about that? They don't give a shit.
I'm going.
So everybody got what they needed. Are we gonna have a gender reveal party too?
Yeah.
I'm all 5 of my, or 4 of my siblings have had multiple ones of those, so I'm probably just gonna tell everybody. I don't wanna.
Oh, okay.
I don't wanna make
so
a
we'll
big
get to know on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Or really.
So we have to make what, blue and pink cupcakes just to be covered?
You can throw blue or pink water balloons at me or something.
No, we'll stick with the Cupcakes or donuts or something.
I read goodness.
You don't even vote.
Nah, one's enough. We shouldn't have treated